I'm doing right now, we are actively looking for things that look stressed. They're not happy with the shorter daylights, the cool nights, so a lot of plants are fading right now. So I'm going, okay, that's it. I'm not waiting for you to bring me down. I'm ripping those things out now and I'm replacing them with the autumn, winter blooming things. They're so mild, you can have color year-round. So my tomatoes, some tomatoes are just faded. I'm going, I know you don't have time to produce any more fruit. You're out. I know you look good, but I know what you're going to prefer. You're not going to perform. So I'm ripping those out and I'm replacing them with things like lettuce. They love, in fact, the flavor comes out more when you've got cool nights. Frost, snow, this thing will actually, you'll be harvesting fresh salads for Thanksgiving, Christmas, by planting now, because we're so mild. This is difficult for you folks from the Midwest who go, what? We have 8-foot frost lines. Everything's dead for it's just a winter gray for the next 6 months. No, not here. It's not why we moved here. We moved here because it's very mild for our seasons. It's a couple of my favorites. This is one I love, and it's kind of an unusual one. Anyone know what this is? Calendula, very, very good. So this plant I planted last fall, and it's like this big now. It was planted this size, it's like this big, and it has not stopped blooming for even a day. Calendula is just a magical plant for up here. What happens is when it gets done fading, you take that head and you deadhead it. There's a little bit of maintenance when you got to take the old spent flower off. It doesn't do it automatically. Then it will automatically send another flower up right afterwards. So, year-round, yep, year-round. It's amazing. Now, to give it a fair shot, it likes more cool weather. So I do have mine planted the base in a pot underneath my peach tree in a container. It's right there, so it gets sun. I think it gets midday, afternoon stuff, but I must have it in the right spot. But this is a magical plant that you don't normally see or may not be familiar with as much as now that you're in the mountains. This is a great mountain plant. I'll plant that with things like kale. This is ornamental kale. This is just meant to look pretty. And the colder we get, the more beautiful, the more color comes out. And so if you plant this too early, it bolts and sends off this very fragrant flower. It's very pretty. This is one that needs to be planted in the fall, and it goes right through winter. And finally next June, it'll start to bolt. This is one we put out in front of hotels and stuff, the pots, because it looks so good for so long. And then when it does come up into flower, it has this wonderful fragrance that comes out. That people go, what is that? It's a kale. You wouldn't expect that. Be careful with this one. Javelina just think they've died and gone to heaven. They'll scour it, look for it. So you kind of want this one protected from the
backyard
vermin. Yeah. So this one is flowering stock. Here, just take that, smell it, pass it around. Kind of reminds me of Snapdragons, but again, it likes the autumn. It just has a crazy long bloom cycle, but nothing has fragrance like that. This one I love to have by my front door, the decks, the pad, where you're sitting and entertaining. People are coming and going. I love to have those in pots because it brings it up closer to so the fragrance is more right there for you to enjoy. It raises it up, so it's right there. I do notice that javelina don't bother my stock. Deer don't eat it. It's got that rough edge. They don't eat this one. This is what every yard should have, at least one snapdragon. It comes in every color. It's almost a wildflower. It reseeds and comes up in other places. A little secret I brought for you just for this, the reason I brought it for you all, it'll send off these waves of flowers. They'll get about this tall. When it finally gets done blooming about December, I'll cut back those dead, the spent flowers back to the green. It's actually evergreen. Let's keep the green foliage. So my containers, I still got green looking there, which is, for a gardener, that's enough sometimes. When it's snowing outside, you just want it, you're tired of being indoors, just looking outside, looking at green is good. I'll fertilize this with it's just what I do. My name's Ken. We're just friends. We're talking over the back fence. This works for me in my backyard. I think it'll work for you. What I do is, starting about Valentine's, something like that, I clean it up. I've looked at green all year. You'll notice the cold is definitely over. January's done. Things are stirring. There's you can feel like spring might be right around the corner. I'll fertilize it with the flower power, this stuff. This is water soluble. Someone mentioned are those water soluble? They aren't. This is one we've made that's water soluble. This is like magic for things that bloom, containers, flowers, vegetables, tomatoes the size of your head. This is called flower power. It's got a scoop per gallon. I'll mix up my water can, give it to my Snapdragons, and they instantly start taking off and bolting with a whole other set of flowers, just like that.
In the spring.
In the spring, yeah. Well, late winter, Maine is one of my just personal favorites. Anytime you see dianthus or carnation or pinks, they're all the same plant. They're cousins, same genus. This happens to be Jolt Cherry Dianthus. I've got several of these. They come in different kind of bright fluorescent colors, but they bloom an amazing long time, and the animals don't eat them, don't bother them. They look delicious, but they don't bother them.
Smell delicious too.
Full sun, they smell good. It's evergreen. Mine went right through winter last year. Not in full bloom, but in full bud, but it looked green. It just looks fabulous. Out in a raised bed container, just in the yard. It's a perennial, come back every year. So dianthus pinks, there's several varieties down there. This is one, just a little way that I use this. Sedums. Anytime you hear the word sedums, autumn joy sedum, it's a tall one that's turning red right now. You've got these just different, there's a whole table of nothing but sedums. They're kind of like cactus without thorns, so you can just hug this. I took this variety, we pre-mixed it so it's got some contrast, kind of designer, put our designer flair to it, put them together. I just put this into a round bowl. I've got a table out in the front yard that is just out there. You know, your tables kind of, they need something, they look kind of bare. I don't know, the furniture covers just don't quite do it, the pads are not bright enough. It needs something pretty. This is a big long table from me to you. It's so long, it needs something living. And so this is so tough that you can't kill it. It's a cactus. So I put this right in the middle of that bowl. It's about this big. Now it's just overflowing. It's glorious. And it will be evergreen right through winter. It'll put on these long tendrils. You see it starting to want to tendril down. I put this in a big square pot before. The tendrils will actually go down, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 feet. They'll just keep flowing. Then they'll reach the earth and kind of start growing that way. They just kind of spread around. We use them in rock gardens most often, but they look really good in just containers that are hard to maintain. So that's one. We're most famous for herbs. I brought this just because it's blooming again. Rosemary bloomed several times. This is a creeping rosemary. Grows over like rock walls, in between boulders, that kind of stuff. Be careful. The lesson I brought for this is be careful which rosemary you plant. The varieties that grow down in the deserts, they won't winter over for us. Or they're more wimpy. You get a harsh winter, they just die off, which I don't mind. I own a garden center, I can sell you another one. But with your friends, you kind of want her to be successful. And so this one's called Huntington Carpet. It's one of the most robust ground cover type of rosemary. So you can use it for cooking, it smells really good. But mine will bloom in March. It blooms like 3 or 4 times. And it's not unusual to see them bloom in the autumn as well. Okay? Lastly, don't forget your grass country. We're famous for, especially the valley areas, Prescott Valley, Kirkland, Paulding, Skull Valley. We're famous for our prairies. And so grasses do really, really well here. Now this is called little bunny grass. This is as tall as it gets. It has this great big seed head that holds that head for really right through winter. It'll turn straw color, but it'll hold that shape and those seed heads right through winter. Eventually snows will come and kind of beat it up, it'll lay over, and then I just cut it back. Fertilize it again, it'll take off. Again, it's a perennial grass. I don't know that I would suggest planting a pampas grass in your yard. Most yards are too small for those. I'd rather go with a Besitos or a zebra grass. I have a lot of grasses, but I go with the smaller ones that are just easier to maintain. That's just me though.